Late, one lonely night, two friends traversed the empty neighbourhood in search of a house, one that was mentioned in an urban legend they were told earlier that day. They weren't sure what they would experience in the house that night, but they each hoped to gain bragging rights to be the ones brave enough to go in. The two boys, Alex and Samuel, walked along the sidewalk, talking with each other, joking about the things they saw, before Alex spotted an abandoned wreck of a house. He nudged his friend and Sam looked over as well. They exchanged glances for a moment as they observed the property. The wood of the house was rotting and wet. The window's glass was cracked from the nails jabbed in from the outside. Boards crisscrossed over each other across every window. The grass was dead, but the yard looked upturned in places, as if someone had been digging. The upturned parts were body-sized.
"Think that's the place?"
Samuel asked.
"It must be. I mean, I want to kill myself if I lived in shit hole like this,"
Alex responded, laughing at his own joke. Sam gave his friend a smile and a nudge to shut him up. They trotted up to the house and turned on their flashlights. The trees rustled in the wind, and the house creaked in protest as the boys came closer. They paused to look up at the sky and the trees, then to laugh to themselves.
"Whoa, did you see that?"
Sam called, looking at the house across the street.
"What? I didn't see shit. We're right here. What are you looking at?"
Alex demanded, turning.
Someone was looking at me."
Sam pointed to the window. The only thing worth seeing was the curtains.
I fucking swear I saw someone looking at me."
"Probably just the neighbours checking out what the noise was. I mean, we're pretty loud,"
Alex said, shrugging.
"But it's like 1 in the morning. Who would be up?"
"Who cares, you pussy? Come on, let's go."
Alex yanked Sam by the sleeve over to the door. He turned the knob and the door gave way as Alex gave it a shove. The boys aimed their flashlights inside. The front room had no furniture to be seen, save for a small stool on its side. On the ceiling above the stool hung a broken rope. The walls and the floor were in horrible shapes, with cracks, pieces missing, and red writing covering most of the surfaces. There were 2 hallways leading different ways, and there was a door in the corner hanging by one hinge. Alex stepped inside, Sam following close behind as the floor creaked with their footsteps.
"Holy shit, dude,"
Alex mused, his eyes scanning the place and his flashlight aiming to different places on the wall.
"Look at all this writing on the walls."
"Yeah, I see it. Think whoever it was painted it?"
Sam asked as he wandered to the opposite wall.
"Probably painted with blood. This is a murderer's house, remember? Listen to this. 'You are nothing,'" Alex read. "Nothing matters."
"I am you. You are me."
Sam read as well.
"That phrase is all over the place. What do you think it means?"
"How the fuck should I know? This murderer was a psychopath. He wasn't even human,"
he growled, turning round.
"Wait, look.
"What?"
The rope on the ceiling."
The boys aimed their flashlights to it. The frayed rope hanging from the ceiling was gently swaying, as if someone had pushed it. The trees outside were silent. The boys looked at each other, both trying to hide their anxiety.
Why don't we look over there?"
Sam suggested, pointing his light at one doorway.
"Good idea, man."
Alex agreed, following Sam to the next room. They froze in the doorway, their faces twisting in confusion and disgust. Broken glass, jars, and knives were scattered around the counters, the smell of rot filling the air. Sam went up to the 4 jars of various sizes on one counter and held up one labelled eyes in his hand.
Are these human eyes?"
he asked, showing Alex. Alex looked at the jar without a sound. He turned to look at the other utensils. Sam turned to the other jars, reading their labels.
"Rat tails? Rabbit brains? Tongues?"
Sam backed away, bumping into Alex. Alex cursed under his breath, but his gaze kept upon a topless blender which was full of something that was a dark, mouldy, oozing mess.
"What is that?"
Sam nervously asked as he looked over at it.
Alex leaned close to the top of the blender, taking a quick sniff before recoiling back in disgust.
Ooh, why the fuck did you smell it?
To find out what it was. It's like meat, but that's not the right word for it. It's more like flesh.
Flesh?
Sam echoed, the colour draining from his face.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
Well, do it over there, Alex said, pointing to the scratched up dining table. Sam obeyed and leaned against the table, dry heaving as Alex rambled to himself. Jesus Christ, what kind of arsehole psycho lives in a place like this? What the fuck was wrong with this guy? No wonder he hung himself. The guy wasn't human. I think he deserves whatever he got. Sam weakly lifted his head up to look at the tabletop. Resting on the tabletop was only a small glass cup on its side, which then started rolling towards Sam as if pushed by an invisible hand. Sam quickly stood up and backed away as the cup rolled off the table and shattered on the floor.
What the fuck?
Sam cried out in surprise. The fuck did you do? Alex demanded, looking over at Sam.
The glass just fell off on its own.
You probably made it roll off when you were leaning against the table, dipshit. Scattered clattering came from the cabinets. Sam jumped to the noise and quickly left the kitchen.
This is starting to freak me out, man.
Don't be such a pussy, Alex told him, but his voice wasn't as firm as before. We're not done here. We haven't even gone that way yet. He pointed to the other hallway. When Sam hesitated, Alex scoffed. Well, would you rather go down there? His flashlight pointed to the door hanging on its hinge, which led to a flight of dark stairs that seemed to go down for miles. Sam shook his head and followed Alex down to the other hallway, away from the abyss of stairs. The other hall led to a bedroom. This room, though cleaner than the rest of the rooms, was still extremely messy, with glass and blood-stained newspapers scattered around the floor. The bed was ripped open, and worms were happily housing themselves amongst the rotting human organs inside the mattress. Alex kicked a small pile of newspapers with his foot, papers scattering. Jesus fuck! This arsehole is like a hoarder or something, happily living in his own shit, Alex muttered under his breath. Sam nodded in agreement as he looked at the cracked window. Low moans and creaks started sounding from the house. Alex rolled his eyes and slammed his fist against the wall. Shut up! He screamed at it. The boys jumped when a loud thud answered them. Their eyes widened with fear as they looked at each other. The thud came again, and they started with a sharp cry. Their heads turned to the sound, to the window, and the screams of terror echoed throughout the house. The thuds became louder and louder as they scrambled for the front door. As they ran down the sidewalk, they skidded to a halt when they nearly ran into a man with a shotgun on his back. Whoa, whoa! Where's the fire, boys? The man asked, his hands out in front of him. The boys panted from their panic before Alex spoke. That house is fucking haunted! The man raised his eyebrow. Oh, nonsense! There's no reason to be afraid of that old house. It's been calm for years, the man explained. Come on, why don't you show me this scary house? Perhaps I can put your mind at ease. The boys paused to think about this, but reluctantly led the man into the quiet house. Now, where did these spooky things start happening? The man asked.
Well,
Sam began.
The rope up there, it was moving on its own.
The man looked at it and smiled. Just the wind. It's very windy tonight. Silence passed through the house. The boys exchanged glances for a moment before Sam spoke again.
Then a glass rolled off the table by itself, and there was clattering noises in the cabinets,
he explained, going over to the doorway of the kitchen. The man peered inside, scanning the room, before facing the boys to speak. Boys, this house is very old. It was obviously rats, he explained with a calm smile.
But what about what we saw in the bedroom?
Sam protested. Oh, what did you see? The man asked curiously, taking a few steps into the front room.
It was a person,
Sam fearfully told the man.
It was a woman, I think. She was banging her hand on the glass as she was trying to get in.
It was probably a branch making all the noise, and the woman must have been a trick of the light," the man offered.
No, I'm sure it was a person.
Yeah, Alex said. "It was some basic-looking bitch banging her fist on the glass. Her skin was pretty pale and she was really skinny." The man's calm look slowly started to disappear.
But the worst thing was her eyes,
Sam added with a small squeak. "Oh fuck yeah, her eyes looked like she gouged them out with a spoon by herself. It can't have been a trick of the light." The man's expression turned very blank. "How dare you insult Bunny?" he growled. The boys stopped and stared at the man.
How do you know her name?
Sam asked.
No one knows the killer's name.
A loud shattering of glass caused the boys to whirl around to face towards the bedroom. The slam of the front door made them face back. The man stood in front of the door, his shotgun in his hands. "You make us sick!" An invisible force violently yanked Alex to the ground, while the man rushed over and slammed the butt of his gun into Sam's face, knocking him to the ground. Dazed, Sam's head lolled over to face Alex. Only choking sounds came from Alex's throat as he jerked randomly, his skin bruising up, his nose starting to bleed. A dark shape hovered over Alex's face as this happened, its faded arms connecting you with each hit. Alex's mouth was suddenly forced open by the shape, his tongue getting pulled by what seemed to be the shape's mouth as the boy made pain noises in protest. Sam jerked out of his daze and started moving towards his friend, but the man's foot slammed onto Sam's chest, pinning him to the floor. The man glared down at the two. "You have insulted her with your presence and your foul mouths," the man told them. The shape started to take better form as it yanked at Alex's tongue, slowly forming into a pale woman with tattered clothes, red hair, and deep, black, empty eyes. Sam squirmed underneath the man's foot as Alex's tongue was ripped from his mouth by the woman's sharp teeth. She held it in her mouth as Alex screamed in pain. She smiled and swallowed the tongue whole. Alex's cries of agony filled the whole room, but the sounds of the woman's laughter soon overpowered the noise. Her laughter rattled Sam's bones and rang inside his head.
Stop! Please!
Sam cried out, turning his head away from the creature. The creature turned to Sam, her laughter refusing to stop. Sam's head was jerked to face the woman, who was now kneeling over him. Though her mouth was in a tight, sharp-toothed smile, the taunting laughter still echoed loudly in his head. The woman slowly raised her hand as she held a small rabbit doll close to Sam's face. Its yellow eyes glared at him for what seemed like an eternity. Suddenly, it blinked, opening its eyes wide. Sam felt the room spinning around him, banging, screaming, and laughter echoing over and over, growing louder. The doll's eyes were the only thing he could see in a blur of everything around him. The eyes melted and changed to the girl's disfigured eyes, little white orbs in the black holes watching him. Sam's head felt like it had been shot. His vision turned fuzzy as he heard a gunshot and a blood-chilling shriek before everything went dark. Sam opened his eyes. He was on his back, still in the house. He jolted up and looked around. The creature was gone. Sam turned to Alex, then quickly turned away when he saw the grisly bullet hole in Alex's head. Sam turned to face the opposite wall, while the little doll was sitting against the wall, watching him with those large yellow eyes. Sam gasped and turned to face the door, only to be face to face with the man. Sam tried to scream, but the man shoved the barrel of his gun into Sam's mouth to quiet him. "It's funny how the doll's gaze can knock someone out," the man said. He pulled the barrel out of Sam's mouth. He shook uncontrollably, unable to stop the flow of tears down his cheeks.
Let me go!
He managed to choke out.
I won't tell anyone about you or whoever she is, I promise.
The man stood there and started walking to the door.
Please, please let me go.
The man stopped, opened the door, and looked at Sam. "People are so cute when they lie," You'll have to ask her for forgiveness, and believe me, she is not one to show mercy."
But...
He slammed the door, and Sam heard a lock sliding into place. He sat there in shock, frozen with fear. Slow creaks of wood came from the hallway, followed by taunting laughter. Sam covered his ears and looked at the floor through his blur of tears.
Leave me alone!
He shrieked, but the laughter was his only answer. The creaking came closer until it stopped in front of Sam. Silence before the house. Sam slowly raised his head, only to be faced with the woman, kneeling in front of him. She held the doll close to her body and blankly stared at him. Then slowly the sharp-toothed grin returned to her face.